Hello there, friends, fellow nerds, and people who clicked on the video by mistake as well. Welcome to you all. I hope you're well. I like talking about my FPL team. It's maybe a little bit different, little bit non-template. I don't know, maybe at least it starts off that way, and then there's loads of injuries and everything, and people's teams all become the same again. So, yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm going to be looking at my team going forward, have a look at some different transfers and players that I may be thinking about and thinking about the future too. So here we go. Let's have a look. Actually, before we do that, let's talk about Live FPL. It's not a sponsorship or anything, but it's a site that I use quite often. And I think it's a really great one. If you've not used it before, check it out. It's livefpl.net, and it'll show you your live FPL score. Sorry about this, if because what you might do is you might start to look if you never used it before. In the middle of a game week, have a look and see what your score is, and you think, "Yeah, I'm doing really well. It's amazing. I've got a green arrow," and then you forget you've got all the other games of the game week to play, and then you end up with a red arrow. But it is a great site. It shows you lots of different things. It's interesting one, and they put a new feature on there that shows you how many different clones you have in the top million, and I thought it was quite interesting. So at the moment I've got 0 clones, and of course that's the case because who wants to copy my team? Even though I got 92 points this week or in game week 20. So check it out if you haven't had a look. It's I think it's interesting, and let me know, how many clones do you have? Is your team rather template? Let's Talk FPL, Andy from Let's Talk FPL, I think he had something like 3,700, and it's the most popular team of the week. As in, that many people in the top million have that team, and it's not really surprising because it's one of the most popular YouTube channels. Not no no not throwing any shade there or anything, but um, I play a different way, obviously, and there might be a reason for that why I don't have any clones. Now, it has been a while since I actually recorded a video. I've been busy. Had a lot of different things on, lot of stuff going on. I'm not sure how many more of these I'm going to do. They're not particularly popular, but I am enjoying doing them. I'm just seeming to not always have the time to do them. So we'll see how it goes. And as I say, it's been a while, so I'm trying to remember what happened in game week 20. Because it seems to be, there was a bit of a gap with this. Well, they call it a winter gap, but then the teams actually just play cup games, don't they? So the Premier League has a little bit of a gap. I mean, Areola. Yeah, so I ended up with 92 points, and as I was about to say there, Areola surprised me and got 11 points. The key thing in that week was, it looked like I was doing pretty okay because I had Palmer with his 18-pointer. I didn't have him as captain, and those people who did were absolute stars. Amazing if you did that. And it looked like at that point, Salah misses an early penalty. Dubravka saves it. I've got Dubravka on the bench. Areola hasn't played yet. Salah looking like a mistake captain, and I'm sure a lot of people were in the same situation. Ending up with him scoring 2 more goals, 32 points, and really kind of getting away with one there, especially with Areola also managing 11 points. At that point, it looked like he probably, although that's 3 clean sheets in a row. I benched I benched him for 2 of them. I'm not sure whether I'm going to play him this week. I can't remember which fixture he's got. I will have a look at that in a second. Obviously, the defence was absolutely awful, but I still managed 92 points. Saliba and Alexander-Arnold completely blanking and getting 0 points there. I think because so many people bring it in Trent now, he's no longer not template. People who, yeah, with the Haaland injury, I think people have decided they might as well spread the funds and get Trent in, and that might be short term. But yeah, Colwill 1 point. Defence an absolute disaster, but the midfield doing well. Son 9 points, Salah 32 points with that captaincy. Richarlison 8. Richarlison keeps coming off early, and then he gets a clean sheet because they concede afterwards. So he gets a clean sheet point for that, but he is coming off early. His minutes might be affected by Werner coming in. So one to keep an eye on. Palmer, absolutely fantastic. A possible captaincy shout this week, although he's probably, if I do that, he won't do very well. Garnacho. Now this one, so the transfer I ended up doing was Morgan Gibbs-White out for Garnacho in. They were playing each other. I knew, I knew Morgan Gibbs-White had a potential to maybe troll me and get something, and Garnacho probably blank. Garnacho actually had an assist, so 4 points, not a disaster. He's cheaper than Morgan Gibbs-White, and Morgan Gibbs-White, as soon as I take him out, starts to play. He's playing well now. He scored in the FA Cup as well, I think. Fantastic goal. Well, it's not that he started to play well. It's more that I think Forest, with the manager change, everything else look a bit better, and he was one of those that I didn't really need to take out, but I wasn't sure what I was going to do. Garnacho is, at the moment, in my opinion, Man United's best player, most exciting one. He seems to be involved in everything. The one of the only ones who seems to be playing quite well. I mean, if you ask my dad, he says he's rubbish, but my dad's a Leeds fan, what does he know? So it's not the end of the world. Morgan Gibbs-White did get more points than Garnacho this week, but I'm saving $1 million, and it gives me a few more options going forward. Watkins 8 points, Jesus only the 1, and Darwin was on my bench with 5. I mean, Guahi as well got a 5-pointer. So both of those two players would have been better had I played them, but I didn't. I would probably, it was a little bit tricky who to bench, but it was probably always going to be Darwin. And anyway, that's game week 20. Let's have a look at the team going forward now. Okay, so looking at the game week 21 team, and I had a lot of time to think about it because, with that bit of a break, the FA Cup games, and all of that, and sometimes it's not really a blessing because there's almost too much time to think about things. I've already made a transfer. I've kind of got away with it a bit. I was one of those naughty people, and I moved Salah out very, very quickly. I knew I needed him, wanted to take him out. I've always had the plan of getting Haaland in at some point, and now it's just a question of when I'm going to get him back in. Whether it's this week, it looks like, he hasn't played any games so far, but he has been in training, and I wonder whether he's going to be thrown into that game against Newcastle. He's obviously a very important player to them, but he hasn't played any games so far. Didn't play in the FA Cup game. There's a bit of a gap. I think he will probably play, and if he does, he'll be a good one to get in. I know a lot of people might bring him in this week. I think he probably won't start, and Newcastle, I think it's Newcastle. Is it Newcastle away? Yes, Newcastle away is a difficult fixture. I think Newcastle might improve, and maybe they'll do a bit better. They've had a lot of injuries. There's been a little bit of a sort of a rest for some of the players with that sort of gap. I know they've had cup games in between. Anyway, so I'm not sure I'm going to bring him back this week. So looking at this team so far at the moment, I think I'm going to have to play Areola again. Hope he gets his 4th clean sheet in a row. He probably won't. But Dubravka against Man City at home is, he might get a clean sheet, but it's not, you wouldn't, it's probably not the odds-on favourite, is it, that to happen? So Areola, Sheffield United away, I'm sure a lot of people play him. Saliba against Crystal Palace at home. That's an okay fixture. Arsenal haven't kept many clean sheets, haven't played particularly that brilliantly recently, and they don't seem to be creating a lot. Statistically, they're still looking like they're one of the better defences in the league, but they're not always getting clean sheets. And Saliba doesn't really offer that much going forward. He might score the odd goal from a corner or something, but not very often. Now, obviously, Trent has now got an injury or a knock. This makes things a bit more complicated. He was obviously a player against Bournemouth away, been one of their most creative players recently, really great player, and need to decide what I'm going to do with him, whether I transfer him out or keep him, bench him. It looks like he's had a hyperextended knee, which has caused oh, I can't remember, some kind of injury that they think isn't that bad, but it's. I mean, some journalists have said he might be out for 3 weeks. If it's around about that time, he could be back for the Chelsea game if he recovers very quickly. Otherwise, it might be the Arsenal game. And even if it isn't, after that, the game week 24, he the from then onwards, maybe 25 onwards, there have some very good fixtures. Game week 25, it could possibly be a double game week if Liverpool get past Fulham in the Carabao Cup, which they have won the first leg 2-1. So if they do, it's possible that the Luton game gets pushed back into game week 25 and they have a double game week. So with that in mind, it might be worth holding on to him, although that would also mean that they blank in game week 26. So I think I can maybe carry him through, depending on whether I've got any other injuries and things. Colwell against Fulham at home. Chelsea are hit and miss all over the place at the moment. I mean, Fulham could score against them, but I think I don't really have any choice. I'll have to probably play him and probably play Trippier now. Trent is injured. Manchester City at home. Unless I make a transfer, Guahi Arsenal away. Although Arsenal aren't really firing, I don't see a clean sheet there either. I don't see a clean sheet for Trippier, but I'm hoping that maybe he might be involved in, corners. Well, he's always involved in the set pieces, and if they manage to get a clean sheet, he always manages to get bonus points, or seems to. Anyway, so what I did was I transferred Salah out for Gross, and at the time I was I was looking at it. At that time, I mean, a lot of people made the early transfer. I always knew wanted Salah out because it's the easiest way to get Haaland. Now you might say, well, downgrade Trent, but I still wouldn't have had enough money, even if I'd gone for the cheapest defender that's not even going to play. I don't think. Doing it this way to get Gross. Now, obviously, one of the players I was looking at is Bowen. I'm lucky I didn't go for him because Bowen is now injured. It might be one of those annoying ones where they always say he's injured and he ends up playing. I don't know whether he's going to or not. It's one of those, don't seem to know the full details or how likely he's going to be out for. It could be a few games. It might be a bit longer. We don't know. So Gross, the fixtures for Brighton looked amazing. And I've been thinking about him for a while and thought that Gross would be a good one to get in because it means that I can then downgrade Darwin for Haaland. Gives me enough money to do it that way, and otherwise I would have had to get rid of one of the other two. As it turns out, I might do that anyway because Darwin, I think he's going to be central to Liverpool across these game weeks whilst Salah is out at the AFCON Cup. But there's a small chance he gets penalties. Darwin, I think that's wishful thinking. I think it'd probably be McAllister or Slobozlai, however on earth you say his name. So Gross, and what's weird is that, I thought this was like a left field one, Gross. So I'm like, oh, I'm being really clever here. I'll bring him in. I think he plays every game, but he might play left back, which would be annoying, or right back, or anywhere. He seems like he's playing in that kind of attacking role, and he seems to be involved. He might not always be, but he's going to play games. I don't, and I think Brighton can score goals against anyone. He could be involved. Now, will he be on penalties? No, he could be on penalties if Pedro's not on the pitch, because Pedro's taking them, isn't he? It's possibly. But so I thought it'd been really clever there, and now Bowen's out. Richarlison, obviously they've now bought, or is it on loan? Werner, and so now people are worried Richarlison will not get quite the same minutes. He already wasn't getting 90 minutes. He was getting sort of 65, 70, 80 minutes, that sort of thing. And the last few games, actually, he's scored a goal and then come off before Spurs have conceded. So that's got him an extra point. That's actually been okay. But he's one to watch and just be aware of, that maybe his minutes might be affected. He might be at some point need to do something with him transfer him out. Especially at some point, Maddison might be back as well. Son at the moment is out, so I think Richarlison's likely to play good minutes, although maybe not as good minutes as before. But we need to see where Werner fits in. Palmer at the moment is my captain, but I may captain Darwin, Bournemouth away. I'm not sure at the moment. Garnacho, Spurs at home. I mean, Spurs, I think Man United could maybe get at their defence, and I think Spurs can definitely get at Man United's defence. So Watkins, Everton away, and Jesus, Crystal Palace at home. Jesus had a knock in the FA Cup game, and so it's showing 75% chance of playing. I think he will play if he's okay. It sounded like it wasn't that bad. He might not do, so that I might need to make a transfer and do something. If he doesn't play at the moment, then it will be Guahi coming off the bench, assuming no more injuries. So that's all of that. That's all of that nonsense. Having a look going forward at players that I'm looking at, transfers, all that jazz. Now, because I've already made a transfer, obviously Salah to Gross, that gives a lot of money in the bank. I think it's 7.6 million. That money is, a lot of that's earmarked for bringing in Erling Haaland when he's fit. Whether it's this week, I think we need to kind of have some sort of leak that he's going to start for me to bring him in. I think I think it's more likely he starts from the bench this week against Newcastle. If I know for certain he's going to start the game, then I think I'd do that move. And it would probably be, so it would either be Darwin or Jesus out. Given that Jesus is injured or has got a slight knock, it would be Jesus. So Jesus out for Erling Haaland, meaning that, yeah, that's what it would be. Then I don't need to bench anyone different. So Jesus out for Haaland would be the move that I do either this week or next week, assuming he's back next week. If we get more, if there's a further knockback or whatever, then that could change. But so that's that's kind of the move. I've got one more transfer this week, free one to do. So it's possible that I just roll and leave it at that and reassess next week, given that there have been a lot of injuries and things, and I'm not sure exactly what to do, so the cop-out might be just a roll. The other Manchester City players I'm interested in is Phil Foden. Phil Foden's been playing brilliantly. At the moment, he's been playing all the games. He's been involved in everything, and he looks fantastic. It looks like he's in good form. He's scoring goals, making assists and things. The other one is Kevin De Bruyne, who's a brilliant player on the verge of coming back. He played in the FA Cup game against Huddersfield. People actually on Twitter saying he looked unfit and like he wasn't running around. He looked like he was running around into space to me, the part I saw, which is the last 20 minutes or so. He looked like he was moving quite well. And he was involved in, doing these brilliant cutback. He just, the balls in that he can do, I don't think there's other players that can do it. And I'd love to have him in the team, but the minutes are a concern. I don't think he's going to play enough minutes. His lot of money is 10.3, 10.2, something like that. So I could do Son to him. I could do Son to Foden. And I think there's a little bit of a doubt there between whether it's a good idea to do either of those, because Man City are going to have a lot of players fighting over a few places in their starting 11. And, I don't really know whether to. I think Foden's a good pick, but he may be short term if Pep starts being Pep and moving things around. Kevin De Bruyne, if he plays every Premier League game and starts every Premier League game, I absolutely want him in. And I would think he would be a priority to bring in. Good fixtures going forward. And he also, it'd be good if he is back. I think he makes Erling Haaland a much better prospect. And Haaland already is probably the best one to own in the game. Arguably Salah as well. But Haaland, I mean, if you look at the assists that Kevin De Bruyne did last season, I think at one point in the season he was something like second or third for most assists in the league, and he hadn't played since last season. He hasn't played all season. So, and it was over the year. We got up to in 2023, I think it was. Some ridiculous stat like that. I've probably completely butchered that, but something like that. Anyway, so yeah, those are the players from Man City I'm looking at the minute. I think they all look good, and they may get a double at some point. But it might be better for me to just wait and see what's happening on that one. So, given that injury for Trent, which he may be out for a short period, he could be out for, well, it's they're saying it might be 3 weeks. And that means that I'm looking at potential players to replace him with. Now, I could actually end up just keeping him on the bench. I quite like that idea. I think that's what I'm leaning towards doing, is actually rolling a transfer, especially if I get the idea that Jesus will start the next game. So the ones I'm really looking at the moment are Pedro Porro. Pedro Porro is so attacking. I don't see many clean sheets for Spurs at the moment, but he's I think he's is he the highest score, one of the highest scoring defenders. Trent's up there as well, and so's Trippier. So I could bring Pedro Porro in. There's a possibility that the Spurs will miss game weeks 26 because Chelsea, if Chelsea get beat Middlesbrough in the Carabao. Have I already talked about this? I can't remember. I'm filming this in separate sections, so if I have, I apologise. And they're losing at the moment to Middlesbrough. But if they beat Middlesbrough over the two legs, then I think that Spurs and Chelsea will miss that game. So I'm not really wanting, which will be game week 26, I believe. So I'm not really wanting to bring in another Spurs player at the moment. I'm not sure the fixtures are that great for clean sheets, although where are they good for clean sheets? I'm not sure. So the one that excites me is Purvis Estepinian. I don't know that Wolves is a particularly good fixture for clean sheets, but he's attacking, and I mean he's not going to just bang in goals from 25 yards all the time, but he's another very exciting player to bring in. The other kind of in fact, let's have a look at the team again so that I can show. So looking back at the team, if I I could playing Trippier is not ideal. So Trent to, I think I'm favouring Estepinian if I'm going to make a move. That would be Trent to Estepinian. But I think if Trent's only out for a few games, I'd rather hold on to him because I think he's got those games coming up and he's going to be, it's going to be good to play him across that period. And if I had to, I could play Guahi. Now I could swap any of the defenders for Porro or Estepinian, and that means I could take Saliba out. That is something that's been tempting me, but so I could do Saliba to to Estepinian. That would leave even more money in the bank, and that's a possibility. I could do that. Or I could just wait and see what happens, and I could always do that the following week for one of the defenders. And if there's another injury or something, then that might make more sense. I think holding on to Trippier for a bit longer makes sense with those upcoming better fixtures, and I think if they start to get a few more players back from injury, they could do better. They might kick on and play a bit better than they have done. So, yeah, that's where I'm looking at the minute. And there are a couple of other players that I'm kind of interested in. So here are another three spicy kind of players, maybe slightly differential players that I'm kind of looking at. Ivan Toney, I think, will be popular once he comes back in. He scored a hat-trick against Southampton under-23s. He won't be playing them every week. But he's coming back. It looks like at the moment he's going to be staying with Brentford. I mean, if he goes to any team in the Premier League, he's probably going to score goals. He's on penalties, or will be, you think, on penalties for Brentford. So good one to bring in. He may take a bit of time to get up to fitness. The fixtures aren't brilliant until a little bit later on, so I think it may be one that I leave for a bit longer. Also because if I bring him in, who do I bring him in for? If Jesus is injured, then I could do that. But at some point, I'm going to be bringing Haaland in. Well, who do I then bring Haaland in? I'd have to then either take Tony out or Darwin out, or Watkins out. And I think I'm edging towards keeping Darwin, even though he's the most frustrating player in the world to own. That's why I seem to be moving towards. So I don't want another player to decide between leaving out. So I don't think I'm going to make that move. I think I'm more likely to roll. But if I do make a move, there's a possibility I'd do Tony, but I don't think it will be. Another player I'm looking at is Neto. Neto, I think he has the most assists in the league. I could be wrong, but he's been out for ages, and he's got so many assists. He's one of Wolves' best players. Hwang has left for the Asian Cup, so that might not help him as much. And again, that's another player that a bit further down the line, his fixtures look a little bit better. They look a little bit more difficult at this point, and also once Hwang is back from the Asian Cup, Neto might be a good player to look at. I'm not sure I'm going to fit him in. I've got too many midfielders that I want, and too many forwards, and too many defenders. I just want everybody. That's my problem. So he's another interesting one, and he is cheap. He's, how much is he? 5.5 or 5.6 in the minute. So he's still quite cheap, fairly differential, and he's playing well, and where some of these other more expensive players are not really always delivering. So he's another one to think about. And then I've just thrown another one in there, Ben Brereton Diaz. He hasn't played in the Premier League yet. I can remember he was an exciting player for Blackburn a few years ago, and he went to Spain. Is it Villarreal? I can't remember the team, but he looks like an exciting one because he's 5 million and a midfielder. Now he plays for Sheffield United. They are one of the weakest teams in the league, but if he comes in and does well, he might be someone that people start to jump onto. He's an attacking player. I think he plays as a winger, sometimes as a forward. So another exciting midfielder. There's no space for any midfielders, but at some point it may be that people are looking for cheap, enabling players, cheap players like that. He's 5 million. I've already got Nacho, and Gross is reasonably cheap. I think he's about 5 or 6 million, something like that. So I'm not sure exactly, but at some point, if people are trying to bring back in players like Salah and Haaland and maybe De Bruyne, fit those types of players in, then some of these cheaper midfielders might be useful. Well, anyway, I hope you enjoyed that video. It went on a lot longer than I intended to. Let me know what your teams look like, and how many clones did you have if you've used that feature earlier on in the video. See you next time.